Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Trapezoid.
We are glad that you have come this evening to observe the hyper-evolution process. This center is the inaugural commercial implementation of the highly controversial androgenization chamber.
Tonight you will witness an educational format that has already begun to revolutionize human relations the world over. We are required by law to introduce observers of this process to the arguments surrounding its inception. If, for any political or religious reason, you may be opposed to the following hyper-evolution demonstration, please feel free to depart the center at the completion of the orientation disc.
In 1986, all sectors of the Albertan economy implemented extensive operating budget cutbacks in an attempt to relieve the massive provincial debt created by a dependence upon an undiversified resource industry.
For the first time in the province's history, large bodies of people rallied for new labor laws as a reaction to the depressed position of the economy and the worker.
In a time of restraint, many organizations deleted what had been considered up until then essential programming. However, in June of 1987, Dr. Joy Sainer, an ergonomist at the University of Alberta, created the Expert Ergonomic Systems Laboratory with funding received from the Alberta Foundation for Biological Research. Dr. Sainer's research curriculum included an investigation into the feasibility of integrating supercomputer programming with the human brain.
Of course, the first question that comes to mind, Dr. Sainer, is why is public money being poured into research such as yours when education and social services funding has been frozen?
Well, to begin with, the diversification of the economy of this province. You see, first we had oil to sell to the world, now we have ergonomics. I think that expert ergonomics is a positive concept. Anyone who is opposed to a process that results in heightened intellectual and emotional responses is simply afraid of the unknown. In fact, through the androgenization and hyperevolution system, we hypothesize that fear will become an archaic experience. An individual will encounter fear during the development phase, but afterwards will have no desire to repeat that sensation.
Hyperevolution research at the University of Alberta involving a rhesus monkey today brought a local anti-vivisection group forward and Humane Society officials complaining of the potentially ill effects of ergonomic experiments to laboratory animals. Dr. Sainer, head of the Expert Ergonomic Systems Lab, replied that all laser data transfer systems used in the process in no way caused physical harm to lab animals.
Dr. Joy Sainer and her controversial Expert Ergonomic Systems team have suffered a major setback. Team officials released a statement to the effect that the lifted memory records to test monkey Elsie were lost when the main computer involved with the experiment shut down.
Because of all this uproar surrounding my investigations, the Alberta Foundation for Biological Research decided to reduce our budget, which resulted in us not being able to acquire the backup computer which would have saved this experiment.
Dissension at the University of Alberta mounted because of the already heated debate concerning provincial education cutbacks. Students lobbied on campus to have what some called needless research terminated.
I'm sorry, but I'd like to know that I'll be able to pay my tuition next year. If the university is trying to find some monkey's memory and my future's canceled because of it, I'm sorry, but I think that's ludicrous.
Education is my business. I understand the economics of learning. To be quite honest, I hope that I as an educator become obsolete through my own work. If learning entire decades of information and experience can take place in minutes through an artificial process, then overall education will occur at perhaps 1/1000th of the current rate. The results would be a reduction in the total cost of knowledge to the individual and an increase in our society's productivity, awareness, and perception.
This is absolutely wonderful. It could be the thing that is going to save our province and our country from future economic collapse.
At what expense? At what social cost?
Well, it's been shown time and time again that if you have a very highly educated population and develop high-tech industries, then in the last 50 years it's been the countries which have been able to accelerate their economic growth in these high-tech industries which have dominated world economics.
Widespread public indecision and pressure from government put the EES at the University of Alberta on hold in 1989.
If you're going to clean out a human, which is the first part of this whole androgenization process, then effectively you have to undo the biological growth that's taken place in all the dendritic trees of the neurons that interconnect in the head. I mean, you know, you take a look at the human brain, which, and I've actually got, I'm dropping bits of it, fortunately it's not a real one, but if you look at this, you know, you've got this, this relatively small, compact mass of tissue, which fits in your head, and that's roughly the right way up there. There's something like 10 to the 12th, that's a 10 with 12 zeros after it, that many individual neurons in here. And each neuron may have, hundreds, thousands of input connections. And the problem with those, as it still is with this androgenization process, in my opinion, is how the hell do you get the information in and out?
Dr. Sainer and her specialized team continued low-profile development with private sector funding from unnamed sources.
Well, it's a very complicated issue. I think that we're at the edge of a new technological leap. At the same time, I recognize that not only animal lives, but also human lives could be in peril. I think that the research that has been done to date has been very good and fairly progressive, and the social will to go forward seems to be present. However, I personally will be supporting the call for a moratorium on the actual experimentation with the animals until we've been able to put the whole procedure, that is the theory and the equipment involved, through a series of tests. When we've got the confirmation that the technology is workable and that the technology will not permanently damage either the animals in testing or the human beings that may come forward afterwards, then I think we can give the go-ahead according to the public will.
The important feature of these machines is that they were designed to be more like the way we know our brain is designed. So up till that point, the computers we had been using to do artificial intelligence research on, or to even think about what artificial intelligence was like, was on a piece of hardware that wasn't like the hardware that we have. Our brains are organized around very simple units, many of them working in parallel. We have this at a very qualitative level. We know that on the order of 10,000 to 100,000 neurons come into some junction and then go out again, passing information along. In the early 1980s, people were not building computers with that feature. At some level, even though they were still operating very fast, they were still only doing one instruction at a time. So the idea was, let's step back and basically change the rules of the game. We're going to start building machines that are closer in terms of their organization to the way our brains are organized.
Laboratory monkey Elsie, the rhesus primate that recently lost its memory to ergonomic research, has now regained consciousness. Experts say that she will soon possess all of her previous adult capabilities.
Elsie, the brain-dead chimp, has emerged from her neonatal state.
A major breakthrough today has put Dr. Joy Sainer back on track.
Programming and data to be contained on disks was the next hurdle that expert ergonomic systems had to overcome. Dr. Sainer met with officials from the Ministries of Advanced Education and Mental Affairs to discuss what data would be included on the first phasing.
1996 was the breakthrough year for androgenization and hyperevolution. Appearing in University of Alberta course calendars simply as Ergonomics 101, the initial introduction of the hyperevolution principle was limited to project supporters. The first class was restricted to 5 students who, over the course of one semester, studied the technical aspects of artificial intelligence, expert systems, and their application to the biological processes of the human being.
Introduction of this course and supplementary courses 002 and 003 went unnoticed by members of the general public until Dr. Sainer announced at a press conference that Michael Lewicki, a first-year Bachelor of Arts student, had completed the one-semester course. Lewicki was the first human being to be exposed to the computer-integrated learning program.
We hope that it is now only a matter of time before age-old problems such as jealousy, bigotry, sexism, and other destructive human tendencies are eliminated from our society.
Dr. Joy Sainer's press conference last week was not well received by human rights activists. Some 5,000 protesters turned out at the Alberta legislature today to demonstrate against Ergonomics 101.
The legal and moral ramifications of this program haven't been researched at all, and God knows what they're creating, basically.
We have no business messing around with natural organic functions and uniting them with technology. There's too much crap going on with technology anyway. I mean, we're polluting environments and we're extinguishing species, and I don't think we've got any business messing with the human mind. If we can't cut it alone, then we can't cut it, and we deserve to be somewhere else. But this is garbage.
That sounds like an excellent idea. It would save textbooks and endless torturous pains of class days and boredom. The school system is all backward. It's all sort of a very torturous way of learning things. But to learn things to computer programming, program the brain through a computer would be a really efficient way of learning things.
I disapprove strongly because it's not God's will for our bodies. We've been designed with a certain learning pattern, and I don't feel that that should be mechanically toyed with.
But look, how much does this process cost? It costs $10,000 to $12,000. Are you going to say that every person in the world is going to spend $10,000 to $12,000 on this kind of process? So what you're going to do is you're going to have an artificial division between those who can afford it and are going to have a tremendous advantage, and those who can't afford it. It's socially divisive.
You have an artificial division by an accident of birth that gives you opportunity for education in any society.
But at least people feel that they've got an equal opportunity there.
Despite the controversy, students and professionals began lining up at the registrar's office to enroll in Ergonomics 101 and its supplementary courses 002 and 003.
Well, I want an education, and I don't have a whole lot of money. So if Ergonomics can offer me my BA and more at half the cost of tuition, why not?
Well, they wouldn't be offering this course unless it's been proven safe, would they?
Well, I heard the first graduates are doing fine, and if I don't take the course, I'll get left behind intellectually.
Debate and controversy continued to surround Dr. Sayner's project for several years, until ergonomics finally became socially acceptable with enrollment limited to those 22 years of age and older.
Although there is still resistance from factions of the public who continue to claim that this process creates long-term genetic damage, it is their volatile and often violent displays that indicate the pacifying ergonomic process is a positive education tool.
Please follow the ushers who will lead you into the androgenization chamber.
In the operating room are Tanya Orlov and Volodymyr